The science says it's not the gluten, yet the Great Gluten Goof Up is bigger than ever at $5 billion in sales per year. Find out why they goofed up and what might be the real problem.
Dr. Terry Shintani. Dr. Shintani.
Hi, this is Dr. Shintani for your health. In my previous series of 3 videos on the Great Gluten Goof Up, I explained why gluten is not the culprit in non-celiac gluten sensitivity. To see these videos, subscribe to this channel, click on the bell for notifications, and find my previous videos on the Great Gluten Goof Up and the Gluten GAF 2 and 3 in my playlist. The gluten-free industry is now bigger than ever, with approximately $5 billion in global sales, and is rising according to the Zion Marketing Research Group. Yet there's no science behind the concept of gluten sensitivity. There's only a theoretical relationship, but in fact, this concept has been disproven in research. In my previous videos, I explained that there's a double-blind study showing that consuming gluten produced no more symptoms of gluten sensitivity than placebo. In my next 2 videos, the Great Gluten GAF 2 and 3, I explained 2 other possible reasons why gluten is not the culprit and what else might be causing symptoms. In this video, I describe research that shows that there's yet another explanation that is more plausible than the effect of gluten in causing symptoms of gluten sensitivity. I'm talking about fermentable oligo or di or monosaccharides and polyols, also known as FODMAPs. These are foods that contain short-chain carbohydrates and polyalcohols that are difficult for the body to digest. Because these carbohydrates and polyalcohols are not well digested by the person, these FODMAPs travel down the digestive tract and provide ample food for the wrong gut flora that produces gas and other digestive symptoms such as gastritis, bloating, abdominal discomfort, diarrhea, and irritable bowel syndrome. Some examples of FODMAPs are foods often associated with gassiness, like cabbage, garlic, beans, dairy products, wheat and rye. While avoiding wheat and rye also causes an avoidance of gluten, in the low FODMAPs diet, strict avoidance of gluten is not necessary. When a low FODMAPs diet was tested on patients that had irritable bowel syndrome, which is one of the conditions attributed to gluten sensitivity, the symptoms were resolved in general, without regard to gluten content. This has been confirmed in randomized controlled trials, blinded, randomized, re-challenge study, observational studies, and in a meta-analysis. Then a direct head-to-head comparison was also done to see if symptom relief came from the avoidance of gluten or the avoidance of FODMAPs. They found that in patients with non-celiac gluten sensitivity, the avoidance of FODMAPs resolved most of the symptoms and did so regardless of whether gluten was in the diet or not. They found no evidence of specific or dose-dependent effects of gluten on their symptoms. In other words, gluten was not the problem, and they found no effect of gluten on those who claimed to have gluten sensitivity. The bottom line is that based on these studies, gluten sensitivity appears to be a pseudoscientific story that is promoted to sell books and products, but is not based on good science or reality. This is important because many of the gluten-free products are not really healthy because they're often highly processed and deficient in nutrients. For more good science and reality, please consider subscribing to this channel and click on the bell for notifications. This is Dr. Shintani for your health.